Did you know that 1 in every 4 women will experience some form of domestic violence within her lifetime? How about the fact that about 85% of domestic violence victims are women? What about this startling statistic? 1.5 per 1,000 men are assaulted by an intimate partner. In most cases, the perpetrators are women. If you thought those statistics were alarming, it has been identified that domestic violence is one of the most underreported crimes. So you can just imagine how much that number would increase with those unreported cases. Domestic violence is growing at an alarming rate, affecting not only women, but men and children in our society. It is important for one to know what domestic violence is, to be able to identify the warning signs and the characteristics of perpetrators, and to become aware of the lasting effects that it causes for the victims and the ones around them. The National Coalition Against Domestic Violence defines domestic violence as the willful intimidation, physical assault, battery, sexual assault, and or other behavior perpetrated by an intimate partner against another. Domestic violence is also known as intimate partner violence, spouse abuse, domestic abuse, domestic assault, battering, partner abuse, marital strife or dispute, woman or mate beating, marital discord, woman abuse, dysfunctional relationship, intimate fighting, and mate beating. Domestic violence includes physical, sexual, emotional, and or economic abuse. Many times all 4 occur in the same relationship. However, sometimes only one kind of abuse may be occurring. Many states differ in the type of relationship that qualifies as domestic violence. Some states require that the perpetrator and the victim be a current or former spouse, living together, or have a child in common. Delaware, Montana, and South Carolina exclude same-sex relationships in their domestic violence laws. Now that I have defined what domestic violence is, I will now go over the warning signs and the characteristics of perpetrators. Although most domestic violence cases identify males as the perpetrators, there are recorded cases where women are the abusers. Perpetrators can be anyone and come from every age, sex, socioeconomic, racial, ethnic, occupational, educational, and religious group. Perpetrators abuse for power and control, have different public and private behavior, project claim loss of control or anger problems, and minimize and deny their abuse. Individuals in same-sex relationships can also fall victim to domestic violence. And most children of their abused or abuser are likely to grow to be abusers themselves. Perpetrators also use threats, intimidation, isolation. They'll use the children against the abused, or male privilege. Now that I have discussed both the warning signs and the characteristics of a perpetrator, I will now discuss the lasting effects that domestic violence has on individuals and the ones around them. Victims of domestic violence normally suffer physiological effects. They have learned helplessness, meaning they feel helpless in the face of a repeated abuse. Post-traumatic stress disorder, having sudden flashbacks or reliving the event or flashbacks that symbolize an aspect of the traumatic events. They also may get Stockholm Syndrome, meaning they become emotionally attached to their abuser. The victim begins to perceive the abuser as their friends and the police as their enemies. 4 conditions lead to development of Stockholm Syndrome in battered women. The abuser threatens the woman's survival. The woman cannot escape. The woman becomes isolated from others, and the abuser shows kindness, and that abused person develops a traumatic bond. Victims may also suffer from crazy behavior. Women in abused relationships show crazy characteristics or display disturbed and bizarre behavior. And also children who witness domestic violence. They may become injured during the incident of the parental violence, may be traumatized by fear that they cannot protect their mother or themselves, or they may blame themselves for the domestic violence, or may be abused or neglected themselves. Today, I hope that I have successfully planted a seed of knowledge about the severity of domestic violence in giving you the tools to act as an advocate against domestic violence and how to prevent yourselves or the ones around you from becoming a victim. October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and while there are efforts being made to promote awareness and several agencies established to help both the victims and perpetrators and their families, knowledge is the key. Talk to friends, family, and loved ones often. You never know, you may save a life.